Okie dokie. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Azren's Journal, episode number 41, if I'm not mistaken. For those of you who are new to this segment on my YouTube channel, it's pretty straightforward. This is the segment on my channel where I share my personal language learning journey and, of course, give you guys a whole bunch of different language learning tips. I'm going to take a sip of water. So it's about 10:30 in the morning right now. Still haven't quite showered and everything, so looking a little bit on the rough side, but that's okay. Yesterday, let's start with some personal updates. So yesterday we had a going away party for 2 people in the Calgary Language Nerds. So Calgary Language Nerds is the community that I run. It's basically my full-time job. And we have 2 people that are leaving very, very shortly. One of them is going to be moving to Toronto, which is a city on the east side of Canada. And one of them is going to be returning to Taiwan. So that's where she's from originally. She was in Calgary for a good chunk of time, and now she's going to be leaving. So we went to a place called the Aussie Rules Piano Bar. It was a really cool place. I liked it. Very unique concept. So they basically have a stage with these 2 pianos. There's a singer at each piano. There's a drum kit in the middle. The piano players play the piano and sing songs upon request. And then, of course, there's a drum kit in the middle and someone's playing the drums to the songs. So live music, really fun, really high energy, lots of people, very upbeat. Like, it was really, really cool. And it was a fun kind of way to say goodbye to the 2 people who are going to be leaving in the community here. And then afterwards, we went to a place called the Tokyo Street Market, if I remember correctly. Another really, really cool place in Calgary. If you are in Calgary watching this, I highly recommend you check it out. The design inside is just unique. That's not something you really see in Calgary. You don't feel like you're in Canada when you're inside. You really feel like you've stepped into Japan or some other Asian country. It's really, really cool. And again, for Calgary people, I definitely recommend it. Just looking out the window, it's super duper rainy. So Calgary's summer, the summer has not felt like summer at all so far. It's been really just 20-degree weather and such. So not really summer weather per se, and just very wet and rainy and gray and not really summer. So definitely there's Calgarians who are not super duper happy about it. Now, let's go into some of my own personal language learning updates, just some personal life updates, and then we'll go into some different language learning advice and such as well. Now, so on the personal language learning side, maybe that's a good place to start. I've been doing my Mandarin studies, so I've been doing more of it recently. I have been spending time with Mandarin speakers in Calgary and speaking Mandarin with them. I realized recently how much more confident I am in Mandarin nowadays than I was even like 3 weeks ago. And that level of confidence actually leads to extra fluency in the language, I find. So that's been really, really cool to see that, because of the extra practice, because of who knows what, I finally feel like I've kind of crossed over this hump where I actually feel reasonably okay. I don't feel really too nervous speaking in Mandarin or trying to talk in Mandarin or talk to people. Not as nervous as I used to, which is really, really cool. I actually find this is something I was thinking about. I talked about it on my podcast, but let's bring it to YouTube as well in case you don't follow the podcast. So I think that, when you're learning a language, there's a point, right? There's a point where there's a certain threshold you cross where suddenly it's not as nerve-wracking to try and communicate in that language anymore. And it takes a long time to get there. But once you've hit that point, everything kind of goes downhill, not in a negative way. Downhill as in it gets a lot easier, I find. Often language learning feels like this uphill battle where it's like, you keep learning more grammar, more vocabulary. You make the same mistake over and over. You're frustrated. You have little breakthroughs here and there, but generally speaking, it feels like an uphill battle. But I do find, in my experience of really really most foreign languages that I've learned, except for one, which I haven't quite hit that point yet. But let's say for French, Spanish, and Mandarin, I've had the exact same experience where it's an uphill battle, and you hit this point where you're not like super duper fluent, you're not like a native speaker, but you finally hit this level of fluency where you're like, I can now communicate and I don't have to really worry too much. There's still a lot I don't know. I still make mistakes. There's still stuff I have to work on. But now I know with reasonable confidence that when I talk to someone, I'll be able to communicate and it's going to be okay. And that's the point where it's kind of after that point where it gets easier. I find there are a lot of people who kind of stop at that point. They hit that point and they're like, I'm fluent. And that's often people's definition of fluency, which is fair, by the way. For me, that's usually just a point to go like, okay, we've now passed level 1. We've kind of hit that major, what's the word I'm looking for? The major checkpoint, I suppose. I've hit like a major checkpoint. Like, yes, now we've got to keep going until I can hit something where it's like, something closer or more comparable to a native speaker or whatever the case is. And more often than not, that's kind of a vocabulary gap and more practice gap. So I've been doing some Gujarati practice as well, because I literally what's the date today? The 14th? No, the 16th. So in 1 week's time, I'm going to be in Montreal doing my talk at Langfest. Langfest is the language learning festival and conference that takes place in Montreal every year. So I'll be doing my talk on Gujarati. So I have been doing more Gujarati practice of late with my Gujarati teacher, my tutor, and that has been a lot of fun. I think those are probably my major personal language learning updates. I do want to talk about a few just personal updates in general before we go into our language learning topics. Some of these, I suppose, kind of sort of affect the audience and the people who follow my content online. So I have been doing a lot of pondering about how I spend my time and where my time gets spent. You see, I think I'm doing a bunch of things wrong right now, and I'm not spending my time on the right things. I need to be spending a heck of a lot more of my time in my work life on the branding side, the marketing side, the sales side, the content side. I think a lot of the actual business operations is where my time should be going. More of my time should be going. And right now, I'm not happy with the percentage of my time that is going towards business operations. Just a reality of where things are at. I think I'm spending too much time in the classroom, me personally teaching at the moment. I think that's a problem. I think there's ways I'm spending my time that doesn't make sense. And there's too many things that I need to be getting done that are not getting done. So for a great example, let's look at the content I post. While the content I post is great, and while people enjoy it, while people consume it, while it's fantastic, it's literally at a level 1 of what I should be doing. There's so much stuff I should be doing that I'm just not doing. There should be, on my YouTube channel, for example, there should be content that is not 20-minute videos that are super nerdy about language learning. There should be more consumable, shorter videos that are more targeted towards the average language learner, not language enthusiasts, that really help them in a very short period of time. There should be small tips. It should be very organized into playlists. I should be marketing those kinds of things. That's a great branding play that I just haven't done. Even just the branding of Calgary Language Nerds, there's so much more I should be doing with it that I'm just not doing with it due to how I'm choosing to spend my time currently. Ads, online ads, I should be going triple as hard into my online ads. But again, it's just a timing thing. I'm not spending my time in the right ways. So online ads, because literally I know how this plays out. It's super easy for me. Here's what needs to happen. My online ads are the best because I never actually sell anything on an online ad. Well, I should rephrase that. When I run Facebook, Instagram, those kinds of ads on social platforms, my ads don't sell anything. What my ads are literally doing is either giving advice, sharing my story, and literally all I want you to follow my free content, because I know I rarely sell stuff on my content, right? But what I know is that if you follow my free content, you're going to get to know me, and you're going to get to know a lot of the stuff that I'm about. And you're going to get to know what the Calgary Language Nerds and language nerds. And by osmosis, I know most people don't buy anything, but by osmosis of that whole process of people getting to know and starting to like us, it leads to more sales. So I literally just need to be putting more ads out and spending more time on that. A lot of sales stuff I just don't get done that needs to be getting done. There's just so much on the business ops side, business operations, that I just am not doing due to how I'm choosing to spend my time. So I think I've just got to figure that out. I need to figure that out. So I've already capped my teaching hours more than I typically do. But I need to basically, next steps for me are, I need a French tutor. I need to hire one actually, to help. I've got to, there's some stuff I got to do. I've got a big list of stuff. There's a huge list of stuff I have to do, but basically, just a reality. That's where things are at right now. There's so many things I'm doing wrong and I have to fix it. The good news is I find that maybe life in general, I'm not sure, but definitely in my personal experience of operating and working in like salesy and managerial and businessy environments, I find no matter how great you're doing and no matter how good you're doing, you're always doing 100 things wrong. I could be doing everything I just said out of my mouth. I could be doing it all right, and there'd still be 100 things that are wrong. That's just how it works, right? Maybe life is that way too. No matter how good you're doing, there's always 100 things that are wrong. Always. Just how it is. So you just kind of take it with a smile, and that's how life works. And if you're doing your best, you're doing your best, and that's all you can really do. So 100 things are wrong, but that's okay. So shall we get into our language learning topics? Let's do it. So I want to talk about the title of this video, unless I change it by the time this recording or whatnot is over, is more textbooks, more problems, with a question mark. So this is an interesting topic that I've never really talked about, but it's been on my mind recently. So I want to throw a hypothetical question at everybody. Do you think, whoa, the wind blew a chair on my deck. Anyway, so do you think if a teacher uses a textbook and they're relying on a textbook to teach, do you think that that plays negatively and has a negative representation upon their teaching ability? I think there's different perspectives. My perspective is, generally speaking, no, not necessarily. If someone uses a textbook to teach, I don't think that necessarily makes them a bad teacher. I don't think it necessarily makes them, a worse teacher than someone who doesn't use a textbook. I really don't think so. I think if you're using a textbook, the biggest question, and I got to give credit to someone for this. It's not really me that deserves credit for this statement. I'm going to pull it up right now. Someone said it in such a concise and great way that I want to give them some credit here. It was Shane Wright on Facebook who said, it's okay to refer to a textbook or resource to teach properly, but it's not okay for teachers to rely on them in order to teach. Is the textbook teaching or is the teacher teaching? That's the real question, right? Is the textbook doing the teaching or is the teacher doing the teaching? Textbook's fine, but who's teaching the class? I've had teachers that use textbooks or similar resources that are doing a great job, and I don't mind it whatsoever. I learn a lot. It's great. I'm like, yeah, cool. Use your it's just fine, right? On the flip side, I've had teachers that use textbooks and they literally read us the textbook, and you ask them a question, and they'll literally find something in the textbook that tries to answer your literally the text. I almost need a walking textbook. I need a textbook with legs. That's literally what the teacher is. I remember there's a class I took in university. It was on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays in the morning time. And the teacher, I discovered very quickly, would literally read us the textbook as if we were a kindergarten class. I mean, not a kindergarten class, but you know what I mean? They're literally reading us the textbook. That's what the teacher was doing. The professor was doing. And I realized, holy cow, I can read the textbook at home. Why the heck do I need someone to read me a textbook? That's really silly. So I skipped most of the classes because think about this, Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, right? Only one, that was the only class I had on those days. Think about this, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you have one class only, all your other classes are Tuesday, Thursdays. If you skip most Mondays and Fridays, you now have a 4-day weekend. You have Friday off, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off. You have a 4-day weekend. That was so cool. So I would read on my own. I would go to class on the days where there's tests, assignments, projects. Maybe if I had specific questions, I was in class from time to time. I wasn't completely not there, but I definitely skipped a lot because they read me the textbook. So I think that's the real question. Now, when it comes to this whole textbook conversation, by the way, shout out to TS in the chat. So some of my school French teachers were terrible at teaching. Some were great. All followed a curriculum and textbook. Yeah, I think that's exactly kind of where we're going, right? All of this being said, I do want to make a very interesting point. I believe there are certain teachers that will use a textbook, that the text, how do I say this? Their ability with the textbook is a crutch. The textbook is a crutch for certain teachers, not all teachers. And I really want to stress not all teachers. I definitely want to stress not all teachers. 100%. I want to make sure this is like concrete. I do not believe it's a bad thing to use a textbook. I do not think so. I think it's just fine. No problem whatsoever. In fact, a textbook can often provide a great structure. Like really it's nothing wrong with it. Okay. With that aside, let's now continue this conversation. I know there are many teachers, I've met many, who use the textbook as a crutch. They have language gaps. They have gaps in their knowledge. They have certain insecurities about teaching. They have gaps in their ability with the language. They've got gaps, and the textbook or the teaching resource becomes a Band-Aid, becomes something that allows them to walk in prepared and allows them to teach the class. Now, again, as I said that, I realized that maybe it sounds negative. I actually don't think it's negative, not necessarily. If you're self-aware enough to realize, okay, I'm going to teach this class, I think there's some gaps here that, or I'm not feeling, I feel like I need that textbook to teach well. That's great. That's fantastic, right? It's like going into it'd be like going into if you're like a knight, right? And you're going into the battle and you bring your sword and your shield, right? That textbook can be your sword and your shield that allows you to successfully chop your enemies in half and bash them with, like, such a morbid example, but you know what I mean? They're great tools, but you have to just be mindful that it's a tool and it's not doing all the talking for you, right? I view it comparably to when I teach French and Spanish. You know, I teach so much, and I'm just always answering questions and helping people learn so frequently, right? That I always get questions I don't know the answers to. Even in English, people ask me stuff, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Even in English, literally yesterday, 2 days ago, 3 days, like this week, I was like, is it vaccinize or vaccinate? Someone asked me, I was like, I don't know. Do you go vaccinize yourself or vaccinate yourself? And I was like, I can't remember. Or like, is responsible spelled RESPONSABLE or SIBLE? And I was like, oh, it's with an A. No, it turns out with an I. I've been spelling it wrong. Like, I mean, even in English, like the stuff I don't know. And like, I rely on dictionaries and like websites, and I rely on stuff too. So to sum all this up, it's not bad. Just, I think it just makes sense. I think the biggest thing is to ensure that it's not the textbook doing the teaching. The teacher is still teaching, using the textbook, using the whatever resource as a tool per se, right? The last thing I'll say on this topic is, you know, I do think about people like my own mom, right? And actually, in many ways, myself and my mom as well, right? My mom is really, really knowledgeable and extremely good at what she does. She's been a teacher for about 18 years. And she's always trying to improve her teaching craft. She's always learning the new ways to teach. She's always trying new things, and she's got a lot of tried and true stuff as well. She's just really, really good at what she does. And she specializes with children, typically kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, kind of in those age ranges. She has a lot of experience, extensive experience in those age ranges, right? And especially when it comes to literacy and helping kids learn to read. She has a real core knowledge set and skill set in helping people get better at reading. Math as well. Math, she's been learning a lot recently about math. So math, she's getting better and better. But my mom talks about it. She'll be like, man, like I realize there's a lot of stuff I don't know for math education. But at any rate, she's really, really good. She's really knowledgeable. And if I take my mom, right? Like my mom does not really lesson prep. She will walk into it. Like if I literally said, okay, mom, today we're going to go, I'm going to throw you in front of 12 kids, 20 kids, 25 kids. They're going to be grade 1. You got to teach them today. Go. Like right now. She'd be like, okay. And she'd like literally go in front of the class, and she would instantly, her brain starts to read the class. She can tell who misbehaves, who doesn't misbehave, who's really introverted, who's not introverted. She's all that boom, 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 clicks in her mind because she has such pattern recognition with it. She knows, oh, that kid needs this. Immediately, it's all figured out. And then she goes, bing, this is what we're doing today. And instantly, okay, we got to do this. Just, hey, kids, hey, why are you doing that? Sit down. Like it's really, really good at what she does. She uses resources. She uses games. She has so many different activities. She has lots of resources, not textbooks because of the age range she teaches, right? Not so much textbooks, but she has a lot of resources she uses. But her teaching ability is not reliant upon those resources. She can walk, like her ability to just walk in naked, quote unquote, right? Like without that huge, yeah, I don't really know how to say it, but I hope that makes sense. And I'm very similar. I feel like if you give me a pencil and a paper and you're like, hey, teach, and like throw me in front of people, I'd be like, I could have no resources and we could do something here. We could do stuff, right? And I could teach you. So anyway, I think we've gone long enough. It's been 21 minutes. I appreciate your attention. You guys are the best. I got a lot of stuff I got to now get to at the house. So have a fantastic day. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.